All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am back for round two, and I promise you this one is going to be worth it just as much as the first one. And her story is as interesting as anyone's we've had yet on Sportswire Radio. She's a poet, she's a veteran, she's a gamer, and she's a part of our very good friends over at the Pro Zone Gaming Division. And she's going to talk about how it all started and some of the games she plays. Like, oh, I don't know, you might have heard of a game called Division 2 and NBA 2K. She's also a part of the Dead Poets Society. She's got a story that I think you're going to really enjoy. She's full of energy. We're going to find out all of it here tonight. She needs no further introduction, but because this is her first time here on Sportswire Radio, she's going to get the introduction that all the wrestlers, all the entertainers, and everybody else and their mother gets. So with that, wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report. Number one, level sports show. Professional gamer, poet, and more. Her name is Tamika. Denise. Tamika, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Tom. Thanks for having me on the show. Man, it's honestly a Thursday leading into my vacation. It's my birthday weekend here.
Well, happy birthday. When is your birthday, by the way?
It's July 16th.
Oh, wow. Okay. So your birthday's coming up on Sunday then. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Hope you have a great birthday. I hope you have a as good a birthday as it's ever been, and I hope that we get the party started a little bit early here. So congratulations on that, and certainly for those that are listening and watching here on Sportswire Radio, as we are now on YouTube and Twitter. And Tamika, I'm curious about your journey because it's the first time you're here on Sportswire Radio, and the first time I get a chance to hear you live. So I was wondering, for those that are listening and watching here on Sportswire Radio, how did it all unfold where you became a gamer and led you here to being a part of our very good friends over at the Pro Zone Gaming Division?
Well, it started off maybe like a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, gaming competitively in the community. One of my favorite sports is basketball. So I basically started off playing NBA 2K. I don't know how I met Mr. Snoop there and his wife Trilla Villa.
Yes.
Hey, what's good, y'all? But it just like kind of like naturally happened over Twitter. You know, I was looking for a community to play with, and you know, it's right around the pandemic, honestly, and like I just kind of got back into gaming that way. Like we're all at home. We're all trying to escape in some way, some shape, some form. Yeah, and that's basically how I met them. And I've been with Pro Zone Gaming Division for about 2 years now. I am an active, inactive user of just like gaming in general. Again, two of my favorite games to play are Division 2 and NBA 2K. So yeah, I currently play on PS5, but I started off playing Division 2 on the Xbox. And then just with my history, my first gaming console was a PlayStation. Nintendo, well, not my first. Nintendo was my first gaming console.
I think everybody like over the age, I want to say of maybe like 30, probably their first console had to have been a Nintendo. Because I remember I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and I remember being a very, very little kid. And my father had played Nintendo. He had played, it was Duck Hunt, it was Super Mario Brothers, it was Pac-Man. And I remember a Nintendo, and I remember as like a little kid, I really wasn't as good of a gamer as you and some of the other gamers we had on, but I remember very vividly those memories of a Nintendo.
Yeah, no, I feel like Duck Hunt was like everybody's first.
Yes, remember the gun? You had the gun. It was a big deal to have the gun and to be able to go and stand up and play it. I do remember that very vividly. Yep.
Right. Yeah, and so it just kind of started there, and just like over the years, it just kind of grew. Like after the PS3, everything was competitive. You can play with different types of people online. And I feel like that's what the joy of playing the game was, like meeting new friends and just experiencing like the game through other people's lives.
Yeah, I remember my first, I guess, live or multiplayer playing was probably, I had to have been maybe just out of high school going into college. And this was the days of Halo, like Halo
Oh
2.
yeah.
So that was the first memories I remember of playing anything live. And that was through Xbox. So I could certainly see some of those memories. So I guess in a way, before I get to some comments, and I'll get to those side comments in a second,
Yeah.
Tamika, maybe the pandemic was a good thing because it allowed you to maybe play and develop in something that made you some friends. I mean, is that a fair statement to say, you think?
Yeah, definitely, most definitely. Um, yeah, I love the community that I've the people that I've met, like
Hmm.
especially more recently, like playing Division 2 again, going from Xbox to PS5 was like a big transition. Like I was playing with my work friends, saying my homeboy, he like basically cheated my way through the first time of
Well, that's
playing.
not good. That's not good, right?
Right. I was just basically like lost for words trying to figure out the game. And he's like, do this, do that, do this, and like the friends that I'm playing with now, I'm still a noob when it comes to Division. It's only been downloaded like the last 3 weeks. But first person shooter, 3-person shooter games are like they're nothing once if you played it. So
Yeah, I can't, again, I cannot say clearly that I'm a competitive gamer, but when I did play games sometimes, and I do have an Xbox, but I use the Xbox One for different reasons, mostly to watch content like some of yours. But I did play a lot of first person shooter games, whether it was Left 4 Dead, it was Halo, and
yeah,
I had played a number of those type of first person shooter games. So I definitely enjoyed this. But you said something interesting, and I want to talk about that for a second. And you were an Xbox gamer, but you started out back in the day playing PlayStation, but you went from Xbox to PS5. So I was curious on what that difference was like in terms of making that adjustment.
honestly, the community. Xbox, I don't know. They're super toxic, especially when,
Why? Tell me why. Because I don't know. I'm a dummy. What? Tell me why it's so toxic.
in my personal opinion, when I was playing NBA 2K, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if it's like the level of competitiveness, like out
Mm-hmm.
there in the rec and things like that, when you're playing out there in the park and things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's that level of competitiveness, but everything was like trash, 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 trash. And it was like bro, like I just got 21 on your head and I've like out rebound you or whatever the case may be. And it was just the level of maturity, I felt like. And they're younger kids on Xbox as well. So when their parents are not looking, they're doing all kinds of things.
Can I ask you a silly question? And maybe it's not silly, but was it because you were dominating them so much to the fact you were also a female and there was an inferiority complex?
I mean, it could have been that, because again, I'm still finding my way in the NBA 2K community. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's very hard to get on a competitive squad. Like, I've tried out for some with Demon Sanders. Uh, like, he's a well-known gamer
Yep.
in the community, and like even that going from the rec to like pro am is different, like you think that people are going to play 5 out, whatever the case may be in a 2-3 zone, however it is, but like it's very much different. If you don't have a captain on the floor, it's very hard to really play the game as well. Like it's just a whole different level. I would love to play competitively on a pro am team. Hopefully, Pro Zone Gaming Division has one.
Well, I'm going to definitely ask you some questions on that, but I find this very fascinating because I had on Watch Me Work, who's obviously the darling of the NBA 2K scene, but you really speak about some things that are very, very deep and kind of complex when it comes to being a gamer, especially at this level. So, I mean, I have to almost ask you, you must spend a lot of time playing this game, and it almost sounds like you're a professional basketball player in the real world, because I interview a lot of college coaches, a lot of college basketball players. I'm friends with one that was actually a college basketball player, and
Mhm.
Tamika, you sound like you spend a lot of time on NBA 2K. Is that a fair statement to say?
Yeah, on and off the court, on on the game and off the game.
Hmm.
I actually started playing AAU at a very young age,
Oh, okay.
and then collegiately, and then I dropped out of college and went to the Marine Corps, and I played all Marine basketball as well. So like I do have that basketball IQ behind me, and it definitely translates on the NBA 2K court. But it is hard as a female in this dominating male sport, because this is a sport
Sure.
as well,
Oh,
so
absolutely. And I know that because I interview a lot of college players, a lot of college basketball. I've worked with throughout my career. I've worked with a number of different colleges, so I know I would say a fair amount of college basketball at a very localized level. So I cover
yeah.
the game. What you're talking about makes a lot of sense, and I guess that it's almost fair to say that your experience is playing at a very competitive level, whether it was high school, whether it was AAU, and maybe for a brief period in college and in the Marines, maybe gave you an advantage over some of these other individuals that might be playing the game. You think that's a fair statement to say?
Yeah, because a lot of, if you don't make the squad, you go into NBA 2K, but like the game is a really, it's, if you're playing my career, it's definitely going to teach you the game. Right now, I am teaching my girlfriend how to play the game.
Oh,
So,
really? What
yeah,
is that? What is that like? Does she want to play the game? What is that? What is that
she,
experience like?
she's playing, I tried to get her out of the shooting mode. What's that game where you just pick up hose and you shoot and you run? Dang, somebody's gonna know what game I'm talking about. Um, I forget it, but she was playing a shooter game, and I was like, you want to play basketball so we can play together? Like, we'll get you a system eventually so we can squad up and do the 2v2 in the park. Uh, Her transition is interesting because she has no basketball background, no basketball IQ whatsoever. So, like, having to have her switch from like different type of controller settings because
Hmm.
yeah, to the basketball settings was hard. But I just had her continue to go to the actual practices in NBA 2K.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
That makes a lot of sense there. Very interesting stuff there. And let me get to some comments here because I know that people would like to talk to you. First of all, I want to say hello to my friends over in the IMF. They are the Iowa Midwestern Wrestling Federation, and they just had a huge show come. They have over
hey,
1,200, about 1,250 subscribers on YouTube, and they say hello. Also, this is a funny one here, so don't mind me when I say this here, Tamika. Not about you. Tom, how's it going? Tamika, welcome to my show. This is Omen Black. He was the IMF world champion, very well known in the world of wrestling, and he is a big figure, 5'11", 385 pounds. Thank God Thomas on another show with there was an individual that came on. His name was Gunshot. It's more like Slingshot. So basically, he came on here and he said all these different things, and it turns out he's basically got his quote unquote gunshot is equivalent to not even a super soaker. And
oh,
basically, yeah, he's not welcome back to Sportswire, which is kind of what most of the talk in the wrestling world is. This guy was basically not like you're a real gamer, real successful, and this guy's basically a bozo, if I could put it that way. But that's okay. Here nor there. Thank you for being a Marine and serving. Yes, I second that. Thank you for your service. Thank you for serving in the
man,
world. And another wrestler would like to chime in, Mr. Zero Deus, who says, Omen, his name is Anarchist, fill in the blanks, get it right. We're a family show on Sportswire. You have people out there that do watch this. It's Cap Gun, Tom. Get her. That's the running joke here. But, you said something interesting else, and I thought that was important to talk about now just for a few minutes on basketball, and I'll come back to some other notes in your
okay.
competitive gaming career. But you mentioned basketball IQ, and I found that so interesting that you brought that up because, as I alluded to, I interview a lot of coaches. I've interviewed a lot of college basketball players, and I've covered college basketball at that level where I've gone to games and I've kind of been into the locker rooms and I would talk to the players during the game and I would watch it a way similar as to way you played that particular game. So basketball IQ at a level of playing games like an NBA 2K, how important is that? Does that give you a leg up? And talk about that.
I mean, strategy is key at
Mm-hmm.
the day. Like, I don't know. The game is not broke. NBA 2K made it perfectly. So if you fall off on a defensive side, if the ball, for example, is like cross court,
Mm-hmm.
3-point line, and you're not playing defense right,
Sure.
the game is going to penalize you, whether it be someone scoring the ball. If you're on offense, if you're calling for the ball too much, like in real life, if you're calling for the ball and you're not spacing the floor, it's going to penalize you. It's going to have somebody run out of bounds or whatever the case may be. So it's very, very helpful to have those skills. But you don't necessarily need those skills in order to play the game, because the game is going to teach you
Sure.
at like a rookie level. Like I play on Hall of Fame when I play NBA 2K. It's just for my personal needs.
How has your relationship with the game of basketball changed now that you've become a competitive gamer, relatively speaking, with this?
I honestly, I fell back in love with the game.
Oh.
2008, after my first tour in Iraq, like I lost my father.
I'm
So
sorry. I'm so sorry.
thank you. I wasn't really playing basketball. I wasn't in love with basketball the same. So NBA 2K definitely helped with having that love of the game come back. Like now I'm watching NBA. Now I'm watching the WNBA.
Yeah,
Like
WNBA. I actually went to a WNBA game about a month or so ago. I went to a New York Liberty game, and
oh nice.
the WNBA game, I have to say, is really, really interesting. It reminds me so much of the college basketball world, because I cover college basketball and I see the girls playing, and I just see that enthusiasm that sometimes I love the NBA, but I don't see that in the NBA. So I really appreciate what the WNBA has really become the past few years. I appreciate that you mentioned that.
Yeah, those ladies are definitely putting in work out there. I mean, Asia Wilson is one of the top tier players in the
Well,
W.
the Liberty have two of them, Sabrina
Yeah,
Ionescu and
Sabrina.
Brianna Stewart. Yep.
I'm a West Coast girl.
Yeah,
They
I
took
know.
away my Sacramento Monarchs.
Yep.
So like I'm choosing between Vegas and LA, Seattle. Like I'm gonna stick to those three. But no, New York has their squad.
New York actually has their best team they might have ever had in their history, going back to the original WNBA days. They have a chance really to win the championship this year. I mean,
yeah, there's no squad like Rebecca Lobo and Teaspoon though.
yep.
Like that was
Yeah,
a duo.
they were good,
That's
but they
a
didn't.
duel.
Yeah, they were good, but they didn't ever win the WNBA championship. That's the only reason why I said this team might
Yeah.
actually be able to put it together. So I thought it was so fascinating that you brought up the WNBA. And I know my co-host on my regular Friday sports shows, who again is a college basketball player, the brute force Brad Weiss, will probably really appreciate that we spoke about the WNBA, because he had tickets to last week's game against the Seattle Storm, but I couldn't make it because I was to meet a wrestler from England who was visiting in New York that I had never met. So this was kind of like one of those moments. Well, it's either that or meet somebody I will probably never meet again. So I chose that option. But I do plan to be at a Liberty game because I don't live too far from the Barclays Center. But let me get to some comments here, because I want to ask you some other things of note. Omen Black would say, like, again, back to this, I guess I'm going to call him the monarchist slingshot. I hope Gunshot sees me dodging him on, because I'll whoop his butt right out of the Nexus Hall of Fame. Yeah, there's a big thing there's a thing called the Backyard Wrestling Nexus Hall of Fame, and people think
Nice.
yeah, but some people think it's basically like bootleg. Not like how you're a competitive gamer and you're this big, superstar, and people think this is kind of like a fake thing. But I'm going to leave that to other people. Be kind, Omen. We don't want Nerf gun to come after us. I always enjoyed having a Nerf gun, but that's here and there. I wanted to ask you there's something else, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but then I wasn't quite sure if I should. But you did mention the fact that you served this country, and I want to obviously echo everybody, say thank you for your service, and I really appreciate what you've done. And if it wasn't for people like you, I wouldn't have the opportunity to do the things I'd like to do in my life and look like a total idiot and everything else. But how did your experiences in the military maybe shape some of the hobbies that you didn't get a chance to do and are doing now? I mean, what was that experience like into how you are as a person today? I was kind of curious about that.
Yeah, that's so interesting because in the Marines we just drank beer and and run miles and like puke it out the next day. But you're totally right. Like when I got out of the military, I bought my PS3.
Okay.
PS3 to the Xbox
Yeah,
One.
it makes sense. Yeah, 2008. That's right around PS3 time, right? Early 2010s, something
Yeah.
like that.
So like I feel like a lot of the hobbies, I mean, you can still do your hobbies. Like I still was able to play basketball, thank God. Like
Okay.
I played on the base team, I played the all marine team. So at the time that was still one of my hobbies. And then to be a writer as well, like I did a lot of writing in the military while I was stationed in Iraq. I did 2 tours. So like one of my first poetry books is during that time. It's locked in the vault now. I like to vault my books after a
Oh,
certain time. Yeah,
okay.
I put them out there for free, and then I vault them after a while, just so they can keep their little value, at least to me.
Is it because maybe you want to look back over time and kind of maybe see how you've evolved, A, as a writer and B, as maybe an individual? I don't know. Just
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Like a lot of my earlier work is more like political. It's talking about like pain, like getting over that early childhood trauma.
sure.
Then on top of that, you go to, you know, fight a war right after 9/11. So
Yeah, that was a tough time because I remember, not to cut you off, but I remember being in college during the Iraq War, going into college, and it was like a big thing that like people were like, we're going to serve. Is very controversial, kind of like how some people win, other people didn't, and people were kind of
yeah,
like, is there going to be a draft again? It was kind of like one of those, like, I guess looking back and, why did we do what we did? And then it's like, it was really like, it was a really like, if you were between the ages, I guess, of like 15 and 25, anytime between like the 2003 to like 2000, I guess 9 or so was the peak of that period. It was kind of really like, very polarizing time in the country and kind of how people felt. And that was kind of like a really, I think, chaotic time. I think not that today's not,
yeah,
because we went through COVID and everything else. I mean, trust me, but at that particular time, if like I remember, being in school, and that was kind of like the whole watershed epicenter of that. And you were
I
you
know.
were on the front lines, literally.
Yeah, like when the towers went down, God bless their souls.
I remember I grew up literally. I could still smell the smoke, and I went to high school within an arm's distance from that. I remember it like yesterday.
Yeah, like my math teacher, like I remember going the first period, and he's from New York, and like we're
Hmm.
watching the towers fall, and like he's crying and things like that because that's his home city,
Yep.
like New York was home for him. So like it definitely touched different people in different types of way. Like
Hmm.
I went to college first. I realized that I didn't have the discipline to do, like I hated school. Like I didn't want to do nothing. Like
I
but
still don't want to do nothing. Don't feel too bad.
yeah, like I just wanted to play basketball, but they were like, nah, you got to get this 2.0. And I was like, man, I'm not disciplined enough. So that's why I went to the Marines to gain that.
Okay.
And then, like, growing up in East San Jose, my father, so he wouldn't have to take out another mortgage to pay for my education. I'm just like, I'll go get a free education, serve my country. You never got to. My dad wanted to be in the Air Force, but he had flat feet. So I'm the first person from my family to serve. So yeah, it was a different time. Getting back into hobbies though, you do have free time if you're in the military,
Sure.
like once you're out of boot camp, once you're out of training, your school training, like you have the freedom to do what it is that you do, unless you're infantry. Um, but you do have a lot of free time. I can say like my hobbies did change though, cut back on the drinking and the 3 miles.
Sure. Sure. I remember a friend of mine, and we're here talking with Poet
Yeah,
Gamer. writer Tamika Denise, and you can follow her on Twitter at Tamika Denise, Instagram Tamika Denise _ the poet. You can also follow our friends over at Prozone Gaming Division, Prozone GD on Instagram and Twitter, along with Facebook. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryson. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's everybody, you think about different situations and different things, and I do have some comments. So let me say hello to a couple of people before I go back to my thought. Anthony Finkel says, I remember being in the 7th grade in Brooklyn on September 11th. I remember all the smoke and the burnt paper ashes flying over to all the boroughs, and we all hate school. Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know anybody that was in school, but that was my point. I had a friend of mine who I was in high school with, and he was like, if I could say it, he was like a loser. He was he was a stoner. He was everything in the book. And he actually went into the military and he turned his life around. He got back into some of the hobbies he couldn't do. He got a kid, he got married, and I never heard from him again, but I did see him, I think, when I was in college, and he came back home to visit, and he had like a real life. He went to Oklahoma, and he had like a job. He met somebody in the service, and so maybe those things helped you. But I did want to talk about, obviously, you being a poet and such. You're a very accomplished poet. You've done speaking on stages. You've gone up there, and I was curious. For those that are listening and watching, you're obviously with the Prozone Gaming Division. You're obviously playing NBA 2K. You mentioned Division 2, and how is it different to maybe prepare being on stage to do a speaking, let's say, gig versus playing in Division 2 or NBA 2K? I was curious on that.
Honestly, meditation. Like one of my if you ever see, I always do an emoji heart, emoji meditation, and write. So love, meditate, write. In order for me to get my mind right, I'm gonna need to meditate. I'm gonna need to pray on it. Whatever it is I need to do in order to just calm my mind. Because again, going from Xbox to PS5, we got grown folks. They're not talking mess all the dang on time. They're respectful. They're genuinely just trying to chill, relax, and have a good time. So like, I'm not stressed as much going into playing a game,
Right.
but as far as like on stage, like I prep for this. Even I have the same routine. I get all my notes together.
Okay.
I make sure I'm reading over everything so I'm not stumbling over my words.
No, you're doing pretty good. I had Ty Deuce on and watch me work, and I think you're actually holding better serve than they did. And no disrespect to them, I think you're doing a pretty good job, to be honest.
Appreciate you, Red. Appreciate you. Yeah, I think meditation and prayer is key. Sometimes though, I will, have me a little drink before I play Division, just because, again, military things don't die.
But I was curious though, because you're going up, and I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, you're in a live environment, right? When you go up there on stage and perform, right?
Yeah.
And then you're playing. Now you are technically playing in a live audience, let's say Division 2 or NBA 2K, the two games you really play, but it's not the same live type of audience.
No.
It's so a little bit more bad. So I was curious, like, do you get nervous? Is there a different type of nerves, a different emotion? I'm just curious, because you're unique in the fact that you do two different things. You're in two different worlds. I mean, Ty, we had Ty on, and Ty's a performing artist, but it's not the same as you're going up there live right into the belly of the beast, and you're just going up there. I mean, I was just curious on that, because I think it's so fascinating.
Honestly, I've had stage fright for years. So
okay,
things I did a few years ago was create my own like open mic night, so I can have that practice on the mic. Now, at a regular open mic, you can see everybody, but maybe like at the beginning of the year, I got to be on stage with George Clinton and
wow,
yeah,
George Clinton, holy shoot! Well, now what was that like?
That was a good time. It was fun. They gave me the mic. They shouldn't have done that. But being on stage, everyone's blacked out. You can't really see the crowd. And once I got on stage with them and I realized you can't see the crowd, I was like, why am I in the shadows? Let me get out here. Wow. So yeah, like it is a different experience. I do have the same jitterbugs. Like I'm always stressed about like whether or not like, all right, does the DJ have my music? Because I do also hip hop as well.
Yeah, I noticed you were doing a little bit of performing as well, which I thought was really fascinating in kind of how you go about these different things. You're really a multifaceted individual.
Appreciate you. Yeah, like, and that just the music. I've had dreams about this, like the music not being there and me having to wing it from what I've rehearsed. But rehearsal is key. Even when playing like Division 2 or NBA 2K, like play my career. Like that's how I get my practice in before I go play at the rec or whatever the case may be. I definitely have to go play a my career game before I get out there because maybe I haven't played NBA 2K in a while. Like maybe my last game was Division 2, and the controllers or the you know are definitely different.
I have to ask you because you mentioned George Clinton. When I think about George Clinton, I mean you're talking about
The
a
atomic.
legend.
Oh,
Yeah, you're talking about everybody from the Red Hot Chili Peppers to obviously an Ice Cube has
yeah.
been influenced by him because you're thinking about Parliament. You're thinking about literally. I mean, he's the godfather, I guess, in some ways, not only of funk, but maybe a lot of what you heard in hip hop. So, I mean, I have to ask you then, Tamika, what did you learn from, let's say, George Clinton? You had to have asked the man something to help you in any way or
Honestly,
form.
one of the greatest things that I learned about George Clinton was we got to meet him backstage,
Okay.
talk to him a little bit, but like we really didn't get to like have that experience. But one of the things I did learn is that he is the godfather of hip hop, like George Clinton put out like music, like the sampling stuff.
Yep.
Like a lot of the early hip hop is being sampled off of George Clinton and Parliament's like this mix that they put out.
Oh, I
And
mean, Ice Cube, Bop Gun, right? I mean, that's George
right,
Clinton.
right. And then you have like even Kendrick Lamar, To Pimp a Butterfly,
Mhm.
George Clinton's in that. Like funk and hip hop are one and the same. Um, but I just love his freedom. Like he had a interview and he was saying that we were a part of doo-wop, but then rock and roll came about, so they switched it up. That's why they're wearing the spaceships and wearing the crazy hair and all, because they were like, oh, we gonna make a statement. It was that shock and awe type of thing, but their music was beautiful. But yeah, I didn't realize he was a hairdresser and he did doo-wop before he became the king of funk.
Wow, I
And
didn't know. I didn't know he went back as far as doo-wop. I mean, we're talking then that had to be doo-wop would be the late 50s, right? It goes back to the late 50s, something
yeah,
like that, right? Late
yeah,
50s, early 60s. Wow, I would not have known that. Wow, I knew he was a legend because I mean he was so much of an influence to against so many people. I mean, especially hip hop and R&B, and you think
yeah.
about all those different performers. I have a good question for you though, if you don't mind, and that's
Mhm.
from one of my buddies, Zero Deus. Did you ever get into the fighting game scene? Did you ever play fighting games, or like whether it's boxing, UFC, anything else like
Oh
that? Did you ever play
yeah,
any games?
I did play UFC for a minute. I
Okay.
haven't played it on PS5. It is on my Xbox. Other fighting games is Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
Ever since I was a kid, that was the game. Or Tekken 3. Tekken
Yes.
3 back on the PS2, I think
Yep.
PS2. That was my ish too.
How about Street Fighter? Everybody plays Street Fighter in that same. Or no, you weren't Street Fighter so much.
Yeah, but mostly in arcade, like
Okay.
me and my friends growing up used to sneak into like what's it called? Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, sure. I remember Chuck E. Cheese.
just playing arcade Street Fighter games. Um but I haven't played a fighting game since. I do like UFC. I am a fan of wrestling,
Oh,
like
you are? Oh, well,
yeah.
we do cover a lot of wrestling here on
Yeah,
Sportswire. Probably,
I was trying to go and watch like some of your stuff and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is
oh,
like my past life as a kid.
Yeah, well, you're gonna laugh. I actually, I shouldn't say this on the air, but I'm gonna say it because I know he's not listening. My local, by luck, I actually happen to know my state representative, and I get a call, and I'm thinking, oh boy, why is my state representative calling me? Because he happens to follow me on Instagram, and he had my phone number by luck. So I'm thinking, oh boy, what could I have done? What did
Right.
I say? He goes, no, I was watching you. How did you get into wrestling? I was thinking, how is this like? And have you ever considered a career in wrestling? And I'm like, well, I mean, am I being recorded on here? So I mean, I get people that watch it and talk to me about who the people I've spoken with, and I
Yeah.
see people. So it's an interesting stuff. I mean, I have to ask you that as a fun question. Who were some of your favorite wrestlers? Because I mean, all I do on Sportswire is pretty much speak wrestling. So did you have a favorite wrestler?
I can honestly still do the
Oh, I know who that is. That is Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Yes, I saw him. I shouldn't spoil it, but I saw him in a movie recently, a movie that did not do so well. It's called Fast X.
I haven't watched that. I'm afraid it doesn't look really good.
I mean, I liked the movie, but I'll just say, without giving it away, the ending was like, it was gimmicky. Let me just put it that way. Very gimmicky.
Yeah. And then I was always afraid of, what's his name? The Undertaker, but
Yes.
I love the Undertaker. When Paul Bearer used to bring him out in that coffin, I used to be like, oh shit.
Well, one of my recent guests, believe it or not, who he's a wrestler but also a security guard because the WWE had come to England, actually just met the Undertaker. He actually got a photo with him and he got like 30 seconds with him. So the Undertaker is usually one of the ones that a lot of people certainly look at. And I have a couple of comments here. Speaking of wrestlers and champions, our reigning champion from Wrestling Championship Entertainment, Craven Rage, who's been champion for almost 500 days, has Evening Tom and Tamika. And Craven, if you're out there, follow Tamika Denise. You can follow her on Twitter, Tamika Denise _ the poet on Instagram as well. Give her a follow. Zero Day says they really should have called it Fast 10 You See. But well, I'm not going to give you saw the movie because clearly that's what they had to do in the movie, the ending of the movie. But it was an okay movie. I mean, I will say, without giving it away, I just saw Mission Impossible. That was definitely worth it. It's a little long though, but that was a great movie, which I plan to see again. But I was curious also again, and obviously speaking about being a poet, I got that about how you've performed. You're also a part of the thing called the Dead Poet Society. And I was curious for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, what is that, and how did you take part in that?
So it's honestly a collective of like artists. We only have 3 artists right now: Ivy, Knowledge, and myself. But Knowledge and myself, we've been friends since the Marine Corps. He is from New York. I don't want to mess it up. I think he's from the Bronx. But
No. Listen,
I would just say New York.
That's fine.
But he's an artist. He's an amazing poet. MC. He does tattoos. He lives in Florida now with his family and things like that. But he hasn't really done music in a while. He's more so fighting. He's doing jujitsu.
Oh wow, okay.
But like it's just 3 individuals just putting out our music. The Dead Poet Society. If you go to the Dead Poet Society, I'm not gonna say their handle off the top of my head because I changing. But they have a lot of like art merch and they're promoting our music as well. Me and Ivy there. But we're just young, talking about the struggle in the Black neighborhood, Black communities and things like that. It's just 3 of us though.
If you don't mind, and I'll get to more comments here because people are definitely, they want to talk to you, and I always appreciate that people want to talk to us here on Sportswire. But you said something interesting, which I may not understand, but there's people out there that might like to hear it. And how do you maybe reflect with them in kind of helping people understand what's going on in different neighborhoods. Let's say whether it's an impoverished neighborhood or an area that might be disproportionate in terms of a number of different things. So I'm curious on when you guys are collaborating, and how do you try to use those experiences to maybe educate or enlighten others that may not know what's going on out there?
Yeah, I mean, just speaking from my perspective, our story, right? Like, I have
Mm-hmm.
a song with Knowledge. It's called Freedom Riders. In the beginning of that song, we have like Malcolm X
Sure.
talking, um, and he's basically, talking about the inequalities within those types of neighborhoods. Like the Black community versus maybe I won't say
Beverly
white,
Hills.
because like there are different types of, there's poor and there's rich. There's
Sure,
middle.
but I think, the reason I wanted to bring that up is because that story now, I think it's actually far greater than it might have been at any time. Because I don't know what your situation is like in California, but in New York, there's a huge, I think, divide where, between those that don't have and those that have, regardless of what you might think in your
Yeah.
political views. I think that it's very difficult not to see that there's huge challenges that are being faced by those that don't have the same opportunities that others may have out there.
And it also comes down to just like education, right? Like,
Sure.
and why we're not growing maybe financially is because we don't have the knowledge on how to, like,
Right.
maintain our money, make our money work for us, have it grow like
Hmm.
some of, the Rockefellers have done over the last, I don't know, 100 years.
Generation. Right.
Yeah. So I feel like the Black community, or let's just say the poor community, is getting that information from the culture, like
Sure.
what you earn your leisure from a Black cultural perspective. Those are two Black men, three Black men that are giving financial literacy to everyone, regardless of skin color, but mostly to build up Black wealth again. Because we had those Tulsa riots and things like that. So some of the stuff that is going on in the world is still being applied
Sure.
in different types of neighborhoods. But the Dead Poet Society is always collaborating and just speaking on their point of view. Like, my point of view is, honestly, I stopped talking about pain and politics, and I started focusing on love. Like, I think what the world needs now is more love. I think that's
Oh,
the
100%. Because
yeah,
listen, everything that people feel, especially going through COVID, and then obviously the things that happened during COVID and after COVID, and people just feel that they're down. You're obviously dealing with people in the economy and different things like that. So if we can
right.
kind of have some hope and good news, I have no doubt that you are going to do those things first. And speaking to people from the state of California, I would like to say hello to a gentleman named Skulls, who's from California also. Now, I know you're from Sacramento, so I forget where Skulls is from, because Skulls is also from the state of California. He made his return to the wrestling ring after 14 years, a 14-year long hiatus. And he also says he's been in 2 different music videos. So tell me those music videos. I'll talk about them, Skulls. And speaking of Craven Rage, I would say thank you for building up the people and making a difference in this world. I agree 1,000% on it. Thank you for going out there and sharing your experiences. And if you are here right now on Sportswire Radio, I hope that you give us a like and follow on YouTube at Sportswire Radio, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/play. And I'll be back on the air tomorrow. That's right, 3:30 p.m., 8:30 p.m. British Standard Time, 12:30 Pacific Standard Time, with the general manager of Firestar Championship Wrestling, Mr. Stu Tunney. And Mr. Tunney's going to have a lot to say, a lot to address. So excited about that. More wrestling coverage ahead. And Saturday night, speaking of some guys like Skulls and Craven Rage, I'll be back here 10 p.m. Eastern Time after I see, for round 2, Mission Impossible Day of Reckoning, Anthony Steele, the real deal Anthony Steele, who's going to have a lot to say. And I'll have even a special guest who we call the coach here on Sportswire Radio. So I am sure a number of wrestlers will have something to say about that. So those shows are ahead. But right now, we're here with our very good friend Tamika Denise, who's doing a great job as a part of the Dead Poet Society and also the Pro Zone Gaming Division. So I have to ask you then, the Pro Zone Gaming Division, Mr. Big Snoop. What has Mr. Big Snoop meant to you over these past, as long as you've known him, in terms of being a part of this community?
I feel like from the beginning, like Mr. Big Snoop has definitely opened his arms to the community. Like what him and his wife are building over there is is amazing. It's going to be so much more. I know her and I have spoken. He and I have spoken about like everyone meeting in person and doing things like that. So like I feel like they're attempting to bring the community that is online in person and connect them. But in doing so, they built a really good a foundation over there. Like they got packages from when I first started off with Pro Zone Gaming District. We just had like some keychains.
Yep.
And, like, but they got T-shirts now. They have like
Gaming packages. We have the gaming keyboards. We have all these different programs that they didn't have, and you see the amount of people that are in the community. It's definitely growing. I've known him now, I want to say maybe 15, 16 months, and I've seen the progress that the company has made and over that time. And I think that the next 15, 16 months, this company is going to grow further, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And like again, he's the head honcho, but he's definitely there as a guide. Like if you are trying to, if you're, for myself, I'm so confused with technology sometimes, especially when it comes to Discord. So I'm like, all right,
Yeah, I saw you say that you were thinking about Discord. I saw that on social media.
I'm like, oh man, I gotta start using this because I'm confused. I didn't know all these people were in here. I can got my own clan. I could jump in someone's like, I don't know, 10 versus 10. I don't know. But like they have so many groups that are very supportive. Like even the players, everybody there at Pro Zone Gaming District, everyone's supporting everyone. And it's very hard to find a community that is really, really supporting each other. And it starts at the top. You know, leadership reflects, you know, everything. So the fact that he is open arms, he is like super chill when you are playing with him. Like he's not stressed out. He's not like mean or whatever, however the energy is. I don't know. I just know his energy. But he's good people for sure.
Do you feel that rubs off the other players?
Yeah, it definitely does. Like it has to, because like they wouldn't be as supportive as he is, you know? Like he's posting everything.
I see that. I see he shares a lot of the different gamers. Yep.
Yeah, he's responding to everything. And then it just trickles down with each player that's, you know, watch me work. I forget Ty Deuce.
Yep.
Deuce, yeah,
Ty
like,
Deuce has been on here. Watch me work. Yep.
yeah. So like it definitely trickles down, you know. Like I even tried to attempt to like, hey, if you guys need help, I'm here. But at the same time, I had to like be like, okay, I can't. My mental health and my work, my 9 to 5. So like they're really understanding about like if you're unable to assist in certain things, just do what you can and like spread love or spread the word of, you know, Pro Zone Gaming District, however it is you can.
Oh, absolutely. No question about that. And I wanted to also bring Skulls back in because he tells us he is from Riverside. So how far is Riverside from you?
Oh, that's about like 9 hours.
Oh, okay.
I went to Cal Baptist, so I know that area pretty well.
Okay. So you're on the other side of California then.
Yeah,
And he's
up
on,
north.
and he's south.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so then you guys would definitely not know each other. Okay, thank you for clarifying, Skulls. And Skulls, you can follow him out there on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Skulls the Soul Hunter,
Yeah.
and he's on Facebook. Yep, Skulls will definitely be back on here very soon. He said it's a song he did called "Nothing More Than Light." It's about teen struggles, and falling in love was about high school breakup and falling back in love at the high school reunion. Okay, great stuff. But I wanted to also ask you in terms of going back to Pro Zone Gaming Division.
Mhm.
And do you feel like that if there's ideas that you have that you're able to bring that up and that Mr. Big Snoop listens to them. I mean, I know obviously there's community groups. I know we spoke with Ty and we spoke with Watch Me Work, and I know that the community is very engaged. I know there's meeting. I think once a month, I believe that the company meets on different platforms like Zoom as an example. And do you feel like that you're able to, if there's an idea that comes to your mind about a collaboration or things, that you can kind of, air that out there?
Most definitely. I mean, he's always working with us. Obviously, he connected you and I.
Yes.
So like, yeah, like if I had an idea, he would definitely. I think he would support that 100%.
Okay, very good stuff here. And I want people to follow before I go back to a few more questions here with our friend Tamika Denise. You can go to Prozone Gaming Division on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Prozone GD on Instagram, Twitter, also Facebook, Prozone Gaming Division. And Prozone Gaming Division, of course, is accepting affiliates and sponsored exclusive Gamer Box. You can follow them. They are on Discord. They also have some Gamer Girl tees, 30% off on select merchandise between now and up to the 17th of July, Christmas in July, summer sale, even 40% on certain items as well. We also have t-shirts that are new. We have monthly meetings coming up. We also have a Friday fun day with the gang, the Division 2. I'm sure that you'll be a part of those coming up very soon. Also, we have here monthly gamer packages, also top 10 clips of the week. We get those from time to time. So a lot of great things ahead. Continue to support our dear friends over at the Pro Zone Gaming Division. Again, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Discord, Twitch, all those places. Parker Licious, I know, is also a part of the group. She's also one of the big people. No Excuse YT out there on Twitter. And obviously, we mentioned Watch Me Work and also Ty Deuce. But I wanted to ask you another question specifically. In a way, it's kind of themed toward Prozone Gaming Division out there from a certain somebody giving you a question. But I was curious on how has your passion from poetry influenced your approach to problem solving and creativity in your professional life?
Oh, that's a good one. I think just being able to like critically think, right? Attention to
Mm-hmm.
details. I think as a poet, like you you need to be creative. You need to have attention to detail when describing certain things, right? Like if you're going to do a poem on a rose, you need to know like the thorn. Does it hurt when it pricks me? Like little things like that. So like just bringing out that imagery and things like that. Like I'm an operations manager by day.
Okay.
So attention to detail and creativity is definitely in my forte. Like I revamp processes and procedures for my ambulance company. So,
Okay.
yeah, like creative thinking, and you're going to need to have creative thinking when playing the game as well, and
Sure.
attention to detail because like there's a map for a reason. Like there might be an item that you need to collect, or you just need to think in advance, right? Like especially when you're playing division and you're playing like I don't know. When I think of like military games like that, I'm thinking about like when I'm with my squad, I'm like, all right, you two went over there. I'm gonna go this way so we can flank them in the different directions and cut them off. Because if not, they're gonna flank us and we're gonna be in a world of wind stuck in the middle.
You know what it reminds me of? I don't know if you played this growing up, but I played it maybe for 1 or 2 summers as a kid. It actually wasn't a video game, but this was back in the days before we had social media. Obviously, I'm dating myself at least 25 years, maybe around that time. Was a game called Manhunt, where basically you have to really think and have to outrun the other person. They would, if they found you, they would tag you, and you'd be eliminated. I don't know if you ever played Manhunt, but growing up and grew up in Brooklyn, and where I grew up at the time was a lot of like apartment buildings with kind of like either alleys or like these like downstairs entrances where like people would put their garbage out. So you'd kind of
Right.
have these different places to kind of like think, well, okay, because in those, like I said, we didn't have PlayStation 5, we didn't have Xbox Live, we didn't have, Facebook Live,
Right.
we didn't have all these places to connect. So the only way you could really do anything to kill the day was to find a bunch of people and go outside. And I remember when you talked about these military games, games, for whatever reason, reminded me of growing up and playing Manhunt. And I wasn't very good at Manhunt. That's why I'm here. And you're there, certainly there. But I had another good question, especially for those that are listening and watching out there. And, being a gamer, what transferable skills have you gained from the virtual world that can be beneficial in real life challenges and collaboration?
I mean, honestly, the games are going to come and present players with various challenges, right? And obviously,
Right.
you're going to need to have problem solving skills. Again, going back to critical thinking, many games require critical thinking and decision making skills, hand eye coordination, reflexes, and things like that. I can't play 3-person game or first person games anymore, but I just found out that it's probably because of my vision. So I have glasses, but yeah, I was getting seasick playing that game.
Okay.
And then just collaboration and teamwork, right? Like during multiplayer games, like you're going to have to cooperate with the group. Like I was doing a raid the other day and I thought that was a hot ass mess. Excuse my language.
No. It's okay. You're good. You're good.
But like I thought the highest level ranking person in the raid, it was 8 people. I was like, well, somebody's gonna have to take control. And like it was just a mess. Everybody's running in opposite directions. I'm here. Like, where is here, guys? So like you're going to definitely have you're going to have those leadership skills, the communication skills, and it's definitely going to transfer over, like whether it be you doing poetry, whether you have to do it like at your 9 to 5 or whatever the case may be. Like, I feel like the virtual world can transfer over into our physical world. Leadership skills.
Sure.
So.
I definitely think that there's a lot of things you can apply. There's no question that the time that you put in, you definitely can learn something from it. And I think you're doing a great job at all those things. I had a fun question. I got about another 15 or 20 minutes with you here, and we're very happy to have you here on Sportswire Radio, kind of sharing your journey and story. And again, everybody follow Tamika. Follow her on Twitter at Tamika Denise. Also catch her. She's on Threads as well. She's on Instagram, Tamika Denise _ the poet. Definitely catch her out. She's verified on Instagram. So congratulations on the verification. But I have to ask you a phone because you spoke about NBA 2K. Have you ever played Watch Me Work? Have you been on a stream where he's playing? Because obviously he's like the NBA 2K darling out there. And I was just curious, have you ever crossed paths with him on a stream?
Through my friends list, and I realized that we were friends on PS5, and I was like, I don't think I've ever played with him. I play the rec because I don't have a set of 5 that I go out and play with. Like,
I know Parker Licious also plays NBA 2K. She's also she plays it on Twitch, I noticed.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I need a 5. I need 5 friends.
Well, Mr. Big Stoop, I know he's playing NBA 2K, so I mean,
I have to download the PS4 version of the game. A lot of my friends are playing the PS4 version, and we're about to wrap up 2K23, so I'm just preparing for 24. And I promise this time I'll download the PS4 version for those of you who still have the PS4. And honestly, it looks a lot more funner anyways because you guys are on a ship.
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're looking at September is when the game comes out, right? About September?
Yeah, it usually comes out that first week or last week of August or something like that.
That's because I always, I know this from, I used to play Madden a lot. Madden always came out in August, and then NBA 2K would come out like right around September. So that was because remember, NFL starts about a month and a half before the NBA season. Now the NBA season is going to get even further interesting because we're going to have this whole championship cup tournament starting in the first week of November, which I don't know. What do you think of that real quick? You like that idea or what? Because I'm kind of confused. I have to talk about it tomorrow when I'm doing my regular sports show, and I was kind of like, I don't know where I'm going with that, but what do you think of that? You like that idea? What do you think?
No, because I'm so confused about why this is happening. Like, I don't know why they're doing the play-in tournament. Like, I thought it was the best of the best. Like, I did like their little knockout version at, in the playoff.
Yeah, the 7-10. You have the 7-10, 8-9, and basically they play till whoever basically survives. Yeah, kind of that. It's almost like I think what they do in soccer. Almost they were kind of trying to emulate that. So you don't like the play-in tournament then?
Nah, I don't like it. I don't, because even the WNBA has something similar.
Yep.
And I'm like, why are we having tournaments? First of all, the WNBA season isn't that long. So how are
No,
they
it's not. It's only like 4 months, right? Like I think it's four and a
right?
half months, something like that.
And yeah, and then they have a whole ass like play-in tournament too. Like they have a tournament style, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on with sports.
See, I feel like with the NBA, maybe if they would have did, let's say, I don't know, like a one, like baseball used to do, if teams were tied in the regular season, they'd play a one-game playoff, or you'd have like, let's say, if certain years you had maybe if it was a division and a wild card tied, they would play till one team won and one team lost two times. Would you be happy with something like that? Maybe a one-game playoff between the eight and nine seeds or something like that if they're
Yeah,
tied or one game behind, something like that. What would you think
yeah,
about that instead?
like it just needs to settle the score. Now that would be dope.
See, I think sports though altogether, so the NFL has added more playoff teams, baseball's added more playoff teams. I mean, don't get me started on the NHL, and the NBA has done the same thing where essentially you're getting 20 teams into the postseason because you have the play-in, and then obviously now you got this Champions Cup tournament. They said they're supposed to add technically like one more game this year on the NBA calendar. So I guess you kind of helped my opinion a little bit about that on the air tomorrow. So I guess we'll have to see. So I have to ask you then a few more questions, as obviously I've gotten a sense of what you do with the community. And I mean, what are your goals then, let's say, for 23, whether it's as a poet, whether it's gaming? What are some goals that you have for the rest of the year?
Honestly, I am creating more music.
Okay.
I'm producing. I'm in summer hibernation, is what I call it, where I'm just like grinding out like my next album. So honestly, this is the year of collaborations because I haven't had a lot of collaborations in the past where I've had featured artists. I have two albums out, Isai Yogi 1 and 2, and like those are just me on it. I produced that whole album and things like that. So I think for the remainder of the year is just collaborating more like musically with other artists, and then just collaborating with individuals in Division 2 and NBA 2K. Like if y'all are trying to run on NBA 2K, definitely, hit me up. I'm neighborhood underscore auntie on the PS5. I'll send y'all my PSN if y'all are down. But just more collaboration is what I choose to do over the next 5 more months, 6 more months.
Now, yeah, we got about, I would say, 5.5 months, so half the year. So still a lot of time. But I was on the music real quick. Now, where can people find some of your music so they can listen and check out what you have to offer? Are you on iTunes, or where are you on? Where we can find music?
All of my music is on all streaming platforms. So
Okay,
you on
Spotify, iTunes.
iTunes, Tidal, YouTube, Amazon Music, Deezer. I think that's a UK brand.
Yes.
Like a few African streaming platforms as well. So
Hey, listen, if there's a platform out there, I mean, by all means, at this point, I tell people, especially the state of the music industry, where basically I was listening to an artist. He did an interview. This had to have been maybe a week ago. And they asked him, well, you're this big songwriter and you wrote, these hit songs, and what's your royalty checks like these days? And he goes, well, the mechanicals, which is in music terms, the mechanical means the physical copy. And he said, I really don't make any money off the mechanicals anymore. It's all about the digital stuff. So that's why, if there's any streaming platform, I don't care what it is, go out there and put your music, because nobody really has the mechanicals anymore, because people don't really buy the physical music anymore.
no, they really don't. I One of my friends I'm grateful for. He's a DJ too, so he actually bought my album.
Okay.
I'm grateful for him, but I agree. Like I don't even look at my streams. I don't even look at that money coming in, because at this point I think it's just gas money.
Yeah, it's just nobody. I mean, nobody really, in
streams.
terms of buying. Yeah, nobody bought. It's unfortunate because it used to be back in the day, well, if you had a platinum album, right, a platinum album would in a lot of days would be considered disappointing. Now you could probably count on your hand who would have a platinum album this year. Not without looking, I'd say Taylor Swift,
Right.
maybe Kane Brown, and Morgan Wallen, because he's been the number one artist for like 4 months in a row. And that's it, really. I mean, there's very few artists that that are going to have a platinum album. I mean, listen, nobody really sells the 1, 2, 3 million albums like they used to. So it's a different dynamic. So you're a smaller artist, you have to look for different ways to come in with that creativity. But I think you have a plan. You're very resourceful. You've done a lot of interesting things, and I obviously have a couple of more questions with you, and I really appreciate the time that you've given us here on Sportswire Radio tonight. Very honored to have you. And one more time, please follow our friends at Prozone Gaming Division at Prozone GD. That is on Instagram. That is on Twitter. Also the hashtag PZGD. That is PZGD. Please follow them. Also, Tamika Denise Catcher on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, everything else here. So I wanted to ask you this question. I don't know if you prepared for it, but I like to ask you anyway. I always like to ask this to all the different guests that I have on here on Sports by Radio. And anything in your career, whether it's, I guess, poetry, whether it's as a musician, whether it's rapping, writing, whether it's been a gamer, is there one or two moments in your career that stood out?
Honestly, the George Clinton moment.
I think George Clinton has got to be like, that's a bucket list. Because again, George Clinton is like, you know.
So yeah, that moment has stood out the most just because it put me in a different mind state of like being able to perform. Like, yeah. And as for writing, I think every day I am feeding off of like the people who follow me, because honestly, I've been putting out this poetry for years, and I feel like more recently, I just recently got all the recognition. So it's still an awe moment when someone's like, you know, your poetry touched me. This song really, it felt like that. Because I have a country song on my first album.
Really? So how did you know, I have to ask that. I mean, because I do speak to musicians. I do speak to entertainers. I guess you could say a sort of good friend of mine is a guy whose girlfriend, you're going to chuckle at this. What a small world, right? His girlfriend was a dancer for MC Hammer, actually. I have a friend of mine who's a limo driver. Yep, and I know him very well. And he's given me a couple of interviews, and we talk sometimes about the music. And another guy is a friend of mine who lives in California. His name is Lawrence Michaels, and he had, I guess, a minor hit song. He had a record deal on Sony Records way back in 2001-ish with a group called The Don. So I know a little bit about, music, and we've spoke about it, but how'd you get into a country song? I have to ask that, just a dumb question, but how?
It's honestly, I love country.
Okay, I would never have guessed that, and why? Tell us about why, because I don't even.
You mentioned Kane Brown. I'm definitely a fan of his.
Okay.
But country, like growing up, my grandmother used to listen to country and gospel, so I was falling asleep to it. So growing, but like the country song, it reminds me also of the Marine Corps. In the song, it comes off as a love song, but it's also a song of loss. Like I lost someone dearly to me who was in the Marines.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. And she committed suicide. So that song is a country song, but I'm rapping in it too. I'm playing with it. But yeah, it's like nights like this, I wish I can still feel your kiss tonight. So like, but I still miss your kids, girl. Like she was one of my best friends. Like and it's just about that journey in the Marine Corps. Like I say a line like, dang, I wish I could play it for you.
Well, I'm sure that if there's anything we can do to help you promote the music, we'll definitely do that. But obviously, people get impacted by so many different ways, and I was just fascinated to the fact that you had a country song out there, or at least some influences of a country song out there, because you wouldn't necessarily think after getting to know you a little bit. Obviously, you never know with people, but the fact that you had a country song, I mean, I guess it shows, A, you're a musician and you have depth to your music, so I give you a lot of credit for that. But again, I even mentioned George Clinton. Like I said, George Clinton influenced the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You would never have thought the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Ice Cube would be in the same genre, but sometimes people get influenced by many different ways, and I think that's a credit to who you are as an artist, an influencer, and everything else you do out there. And that's why I'm very excited about the future for you here. I have no doubt that you'll be a huge part of things for the Pro Zone Gaming division and, of course, the Dead Poets Society and everything you do. And I had a great time speaking with you, but I want to ask you one more question before I get to closing thoughts here. And what do you want to say to anybody out there that's hearing of you the first time, and why they should go and follow you and join you on this journey where you'll probably do great things, whether it's an artist, whether it's a poet or a gamer, or being a part of the Pro Zone Gaming division. So what do you want to say to people here that are hearing you for the first time, and maybe why they should follow you and join along with you?
Look, guys, no, it's good. No, I'm honestly, I'm not gonna say you guys should follow me. If I resonate with you, you should follow. Like, if you're someone who is like searching for themselves, like in a from a spiritual perspective, you should definitely follow me, because a lot of my poetry is about love. It's about that twin flame journey. It's about that journey of just finding yourself on your spiritual path. Like, a lot of the things I do is like positivity. I definitely bullshit on Twitter and Threads. So
that's okay. That's okay. No, listen, people are entitled. I was listening to an interview today, and somebody was saying, well, when you see a person in real life versus on social media, well, of course, because people, they're allowed to vent, they're allowed to show themselves in their expressions, and I think that that's completely fine. So yeah, you should be that kind of person that's going and saying what's on your mind, because that's what it's there for, right?
Right. Yeah, like my music, I believe that I don't know, I wouldn't say that it's like queer or LGBTQ like hip hop, but like on that genre. Like, I have like a niche in hip hop. If we could call it poetic or flowetry hip hop, if you love poetry and hip hop, you should follow me. Because I definitely, within my rhymes, I'm spitting out, some poetry. I'm also singing. I'm also producing. I'm also growing as a musical artist. I'm gonna perform tomorrow here in Sacramento.
Tell us where are you performing, and what time, if there's somebody out there like a Skulls who wants to drive 9 hours to see you perform, which I'm sure he's not going to do that, but where where are you going to be?
I'm going to be at the Sip and Tea event. It's an open mic here in Sacramento. If you follow me on my Instagram page, you can definitely get more information about the location and things like that. It's definitely in my story. But yeah, like, I'm definitely one of those people who are open to collaboration. So if you are a poet or aspiring poet, you should definitely follow. I'm always trying to give knowledge in any way, shape, or form. I'm over 30, so I'm definitely I'm willing to teach.
Okay. Well, you're not 80. You're not 80. So listen, let's not act like you're 80 years old. You definitely that's okay. Listen, that's okay. Listen, you're somebody that's a true influencer. I think is somebody from a female perspective here. We've obviously had Ty and Watch Me Work, but I think what you're doing as a gamer, as a poet, I think, and even as an artist, I think you're definitely an inspiration to a lot of girls out there and a lot of other women. I think because again, there's not as many women gamers, I think, or women, let's say, artists or poets. And I think that your story here, I think, is going to influence a lot of those people out there. And I think you being a part of the Pro Zone Gaming division is going to help a lot of things here. And before I get to closing thoughts, I want to say hello to another champion, the AIW World Champion, Adonis Felios, the Drip King, who has been on sport. Yeah, he's a Drip King, and he's certainly, we'll see if his luck changes when the WCE Showdown in the Yard gets released on YouTube. We'll have to see. But hello to the.
Be excited. I'm going back to. I want to watch it.
Yeah, well, you know what? I've had. Well, I should say this, and I don't know if Mr. Big Stoop, I think, kind of likes wrestling now, but I actually had, well, you're going to chuckle. I hope this isn't going to turn people off. But last week on the show, we actually had our first ever in attack on Sportswire. We had the Skulls here. He actually got beat up by Craven Rage live on Sportswire Radio. So actually,
Oh,
it's come to the point that actually what we've had on the show in the past is we've had other wrestlers come on and interrupt other wrestlers, call them out. At the very beginning of the show, we had this gunshot guy who's basically the squirt gun, and basically he's shown to be a how can I say this very kindly, a big bullshitter. And we've had other wrestlers come on here and they've gone back and forth with each other, and wrestlers have called out one another. And I'm sure tomorrow there'll be fireworks, and especially Saturday. So it's come to the point on Sportswire. I shouldn't say this, but I'll say it. I've actually gotten requests from people from Greece, Australia to come on that are wrestlers, and like I got, they want to share their story. So it's to the point where it's basically like I'm overloaded and I forget where I am. But all kidding aside, yeah, if you do like wrestling or thinking about coming back to wrestling, I am definitely somebody that has a lot of wrestling coverage, and you can certainly check us out here. But Mr. Big Snoop does a good job in promoting us on Sportswire, so I'm sure you'll hear all about it if you haven't already.
yeah.
But Tamika, I know you're getting ready for vacation. You're getting ready for the big show tomorrow, so I want to congratulate you on that. Congratulations on all the success that you've had here on Sportswire Radio. So I turn it over to you. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, say, and the floor is yours, and fire away, my friend.
Hey, gang, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Tamika Denise, on Instagram at Tamika Denise _ the poet. I'm glad. I just thank you, Rev, for allowing me on this platform and giving me the space to talk with you and talk to your following and my following in PCG. I just want to thank everyone, Mr. Big Snoop.
Sure.
I want to shout out Casualty Elite, Miss J, Got 'em 33, Still Kales, Flames 50. Those are some of the people that I play with on Division 2 right now. They're like my key players. We're like the squad. But yeah, if you guys are on, follow me on those places, and we'll definitely connect outside on the PS5 or the PS4.
Oh, I won't compare it to the because I know you're probably a Kings fan. I won't compare it to the bomb squad of Curry and Thompson, because I will not bring up the.
I'm a Warriors fan.
Oh, you're a Warriors fan. Because I think in Sacramento you're a Kings fan, so that's okay. I guess I could bring up the fact the Warriors eliminated the Kings. Okay, so fair enough. So yeah. I can bring up Curry and Thompson.
Area. I just recently moved out here, so
okay.
It's definitely a new scene for me out here. I'm still learning where all the open mics are, all the places that I need to perform. So.
Well, the Warriors, listen, they certainly have had a lot of success. I know with the Kings, it's certainly a work in progress, but you certainly, I'm sure, I think with some of the moves the Warriors have made, they'll be certainly right back up there and maybe get back and win another championship and continue this mini dynasty. But certainly, that's a squad we all want to follow with the Division 2 squad. We know that our guest here tonight, Tamika Denise of the Pro Zone Gaming Division, is a huge part of this. My friend, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for this opportunity. I definitely want to speak with you soon, hear more about the music, the gigs, anything else we can do. Please let us know, and we'll definitely speak with you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Tamika Denise, who, of course, you can follow on Twitter at Tamika Denise. You can also catch her on Instagram at Tamika Denise _ the poet. She is also on Threads as well, and she's a part of our very good friends over at the Pro Zone Gaming Division. That is Pro Zone GD on Instagram, Twitter. You can also catch them on YouTube and Facebook, Pro Zone Gaming Division. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryson. If you're on sportnarium.com/player, in a little while, you go back to your regularly scheduled program. And if you're on Twitter and YouTube, I will be back tomorrow afternoon, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, with the general manager of Firestar Championship Wrestling. That is Stuart Tunney. Stuart's going to have a lot to address, a lot to say, so catch that. But thank you, everybody here, for tuning in. Thank you to Pro Zone Gaming Division, Mr. Big Snoop, everybody else there that's tuned in on the #1 global radio station, that is Sportswire Radio. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, on the #1 global radio station.